So, welcome to the solutions video for CK12's Algebra unit, Excluded Values for Rational Expressions. Again, checking for this blue, this is currently assigned to U bar. So we're looking for intercepts and wholes of the following rational function. So we have 4 minus x squared over x minus 2. So if we have 4 minus x squared for x minus 2, we could pull out an overall factor of -1 to make our numerator x squared minus 4 over x minus 2 by factoring a -1 out of that binomial in the numerator. And now we could factor our numerator as the difference of perfect squares. That's x minus 2, x plus 2 over x minus 2. The x minus 2's cancel. And we have a negative x plus 2. So it appears that when x is 0, y is -2, and when y is 0, x is -2. I say it appears like this. We always have to go back and check to see if either of these is a non-permissible value. If we have a denominator that does not cancel, that will produce a vertical asymptote where that denominator is 0. Here our denominator does cancel, so this will produce a whole. It will not be an asymptote, it'll just be 1 point removed from the middle of the graph. So when x is 0, our y-intercept is 0, -2. There's only one of these that has that option. Our x-intercept is at -2, 0. And our whole is where this canceled. That's at x equals 2. And if we substitute 2 in here, 2 plus 2 is 4. We have a negative on the outside, so y is -4. So that's our whole with no asymptotes. And we want to identify the location of the whole of this following function. So the x squared minus 9 means this factors as x plus 3, x minus 3. If we have a whole, that means at least one of those functions cancels. And those are the only two possibilities. If we have a whole, then we had a term that makes our denominator 0, which canceled in the algebra. So we would have to normally factor the entire numerator or graph the numerator to see where it hits x equals plus or minus 3 to see if we have a root there to see where our whole was and see what canceled. In this case, it's multiple choice. We only have 4 options, and only one of those options can be a whole because it has to be either plus or minus 3. So the x plus 3 root must be the term that cancels, leaving us with a whole at x equals -3. Now here, the zeros of f. So what values will make our y values 0? The x plus 2 will not cancel with anything. It cannot be a factor of our numerator. If it was, our constant would be a multiple of 2. So all we have to do is figure out how to factor our numerator and see what our zeros are. We could graph it. I will show the factoring. So we need numbers at first, or we're going to need coefficients of x, I should say, that multiply out to 6. So it's either 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. Our constants both have to be 1. We need to have one positive and one negative, otherwise we're not going to get that minus sign here. Our cross term here has to be a -1, which means this negative has to multiply a coefficient of x that is 1 greater than the other coefficient of x that multiplies the positive 1. So that has to be a 3 and that has to be a 2. If we had it the other way around, we'd have a positive x in the middle. And if we had our factors as 1 and 6, then we wouldn't just have a negative x in the middle, it would be plus or minus 5. So the zeros are negative 1/3. That's what we get from this one, which we could have used to build that factor. If x is negative 1/3, then 3x is negative 1, and 3x plus 1 is a factor. Our other factor, 2x minus 1 equals 0, is the same as 2x equals 1, or x equals 1/2. So 1/2 is our missing 0. So what is the 0 of this function? Now it does specifically say that x cannot be 0, because even though that makes the numerator 0, it also makes the denominator 0. If we factor that, we have x times x minus 2 over 6x. The x's cancel. We have x minus 2 over 6. So x equals 2 will make our numerator 0. So x equals 2. Now wholes and intercepts of the following function. Now x minus 1 will cancel with the 1 minus x and just leave a negative x overall. So our simplified function is h equals a negative x plus 2. So this means we have a whole where x equals 1. So option D is not viable. If we substitute 1 for x, 1 plus 2 is 3, and a negative out front makes h negative 3. So yeah, when x is 1, this should produce a y of negative 3. And they only have positive 3 to pick from. See, when x is 0, and then our y is negative 2, so this one has the right y-intercept. And when y is 0, then x is negative 2. So these are correct, but that whole should not be at 1, 3. If we graph x plus 2 times 1 minus x over x minus 1, x equals negative 3 does not produce a whole. That produces negative 3 and 1. X equals 1, we see should be coming down at negative 3. And decimal shows us it's undefined. That is our whole. So we need to improve this question. So the answer choices have a typo. All right, and that's our 5 correct. So we are now at the mastery level. So we will stop for now. And again, we always have to turn it in order for me to see the results. So always make sure you get that turn in again. And the green check mark telling you you have turned in the assignment.